In our series exploring the CIA's secret history, we've seen the agency perfect its playbook. In Iran, they staged a coup for oil. In Guatemala, they refined the model for a banana company. But after the humiliating failure at the Bay of Pigs, the agency learned a hard lesson. Not every government could be toppled with a quick 3-day operation. So, when a democratically elected Marxist threatened their interests in one of South America's most stable democracies, they didn't just plan a coup, they planned a war, a decade-long war. This is the story of Chile. It's the story of how the CIA, under the direct orders of President Richard Nixon and his national security advisor Henry Kissinger, waged a relentless 10-year campaign to destroy a democracy from within. This wasn't about a proxy army or a few radio broadcasts. This was a new, more insidious strategy, a slow, grinding campaign of economic warfare, political manipulation, and psychological terror designed to make the economy scream and set the stage for one of the bloodiest military coups of the 20th century. Using Tim Weiner's Legacy of Ashes and the declassified records of the CIA itself, we will expose the 2-track plan that led to the death of President Salvador Allende and the rise of the brutal dictator Augusto Pinochet. By the end of this video, you will understand that the coup of September 11, 1973 was not a spontaneous event. It was the final bloody act in a tragedy written, financed, and directed from Washington. If you believe in uncovering the hidden strategies that shape our world, then do your part. Like this video, subscribe to Strategy Codex, and tell us what you think in the comments below. Your engagement is vital. Our story begins not in 1973, but a full decade earlier. Chile, unlike many of its neighbors, was a proud and stable democracy. But it was also a nation of deep inequality, and that gave rise to Salvador Allende, a socialist doctor who had been running for president since the 1950s. As early as 1962, the Kennedy administration saw Allende as a threat. So, in the 1964 Chilean election, the CIA launched its first major covert action to stop him. It was a massive political warfare operation. The agency pumped roughly $3 million into the campaign of their preferred candidate, the Christian Democrat Eduardo Frei. As Weiner notes, this worked out to about $1 a vote. The CIA financed everything: get out the vote drives, anti-Allende propaganda created by the same team that ran the Guatemala operation, and funding for church groups and trade unions to oppose him. It worked. Frei won a decisive victory. Secretary of State Dean Rusk called it a triumph for democracy, which was, he admitted, achieved partly as a result of the good work of the CIA. They had bought an election and kept their man out of power. For now. For 6 years, Chile was stable under President Frei, but the Chilean constitution limited him to a single term. By 1970, Salvador Allende was running for president for the 4th time, and he was the front-runner. This time, the situation was far more dangerous for Washington. The new president was Richard Nixon, and his right-hand man was Henry Kissinger. Kissinger famously and cynically called Chile a dagger pointed at the heart of Antarctica, but his private memos revealed his true feelings. In June 1970, he authorized funding to defeat Allende, noting, "I don't see why we have to let a country go Marxist just because its people are irresponsible." The CIA launched another huge propaganda campaign. They planted stories in newspapers around the world. An in-house agency report later noted that a Time magazine cover story attacking Allende owed a great deal to written materials and briefings provided by CIA. But this time, the propaganda wasn't enough. On September 4, 1970, Salvador Allende won the election. He didn't win an outright majority, but he won a plurality with just under 37% of the vote. Under Chilean law, this meant the Chilean Congress had to vote to confirm the winner 50 days later, on October 24th. It was supposed to be a formality. For Nixon and Kissinger, it was a 50-day window to destroy him. On September 15, 1970, 11 days after the election, CIA Director Richard Helms was summoned to the Oval Office. Nixon was furious. He gave Helms a series of chilling handwritten commands that would define the next 3 years of Chilean history. Helms scribbled them on a notepad. 1 in 10 chance perhaps, but save Chile. $10 million available. Best men we have. Make the economy scream. Nixon's orders were explicit. Prevent Allende from taking power, or if he does, unseat him. And he wanted it done secretly, without the knowledge of the State Department or even the U.S. ambassador in Chile. This was the birth of the infamous Track 1 and Track 2 strategy. Track I was the soft approach. It was a plan of intense political and economic warfare. The CIA was authorized to bribe the Chilean Congress to vote against Allende and instead confirm the runner-up, who would then resign, triggering a new election that Allende's opponents could win. The agency also began its campaign to make the economy scream. They worked to cut off international loans, freeze assets, and scare away foreign investors. The centerpiece of this effort was funding for Chile's largest newspaper, El Mercurio, turning it into a mouthpiece for anti-Allende propaganda, owned by the CIA's key asset, Agustín Edwards. But Nixon and Kissinger had no faith that Track I would work. So they ordered the CIA to simultaneously pursue Track 2, a direct military coup. This was the real plan. Helms was ordered to find Chilean military officers willing to overthrow their own government before Allende could be confirmed. There was just one major obstacle: General René Schneider, the commander-in-chief of the Chilean army. Schneider was a constitutionalist. He was a man of honor who firmly believed the military's role was to uphold the Constitution, not to interfere in politics. He had made it clear that the army would respect the election results. For a coup to happen, General Schneider had to be removed. The CIA station in Santiago, led by veteran Henry Heckscher, was ordered to find a general willing to act. They made contact with several groups of conspirators. One was led by a retired general named Roberto Vio, a man so reckless that even many of his fellow officers thought he was insane. Another was led by an active-duty general, Camilo Valenzuela. The CIA's own records, declassified decades later, are damning. On October 15, 1970, a top CIA official cabled the Santiago station. It is firm and continuing policy that Allende be overthrown by a coup. We are to continue to generate maximum pressure toward this end, utilizing every appropriate resource. It is imperative that these actions be implemented clandestinely and securely, so that the USG and American hand be well hidden. The agency provided cash and encouragement to the plotters. On October 19th, they attempted to kidnap General Schneider, hoping to fly him to Argentina and spark a wider military revolt. The plot failed. 2 days later, on October 21st, the CIA provided a second group of plotters, led by General Valenzuela, with 3 submachine guns, ammunition, and tear gas grenades for another kidnapping attempt. The next day, on October 22nd, as General Schneider was being driven to work, the conspirators ambushed his car. When Schneider drew his own sidearm to defend himself, they shot him at point-blank range. He died in the hospital 3 days later. The assassination of General Schneider, the man who stood for democracy in the military, had the exact opposite effect of what the CIA intended. Instead of triggering a coup, it horrified the nation and the military. It unified the country behind the constitutional process. 2 days after Schneider's death, on October 24, 1970, the Chilean Congress confirmed Salvador Allende as president by a massive margin. Track 2 had failed. Allende was in power. But for Nixon and Kissinger, the war was just beginning. With Allende in office, the strategy shifted from preventing his rise to ensuring his fall. The CIA now embarked on a 3-year campaign of relentless destabilization. They poured millions of dollars into opposition parties, funding a shadow government. They kept El Mercurio and other opposition media afloat with secret cash infusions, allowing them to relentlessly attack every government policy. And, most critically, they funded the groups that would bring the country to its knees. the CIA financed the massive crippling strikes that paralyzed Chile's economy.
Se proponía el estrangulamiento económico, el sabotaje diplomático, el desorden social, crear el pánico en la población para que al ser sobrepasado el gobierno, las Fuerzas Armadas fueran impulsadas a quebrar el régimen democrático e imponer una dictadura.
The most famous of these was the truckers' strike of 1972 and 1973. The agency secretly passed money to the striking truckers, who brought the country's transportation system to a halt. This created massive food and supply shortages, fueling hyperinflation and creating an atmosphere of chaos and desperation among the middle class. The goal was to create so much misery and disorder that the military would see itself as the only institution capable of restoring order. They were creating the justification for the coup they had wanted all along. By 1973, Chile was a pressure cooker. The economy was in ruins, the political system was polarized, and society was on the brink of civil war. The CIA had successfully created the conditions for a military takeover. They had identified and cultivated relationships with the key military officers who were now prepared to act. The new commander of the army was General Augusto Pinochet. The CIA knew him well. They had been in contact with him and other plotters. On September 11, 1973, the military made its move. Troops surrounded the presidential palace, La Moneda. Fighter jets screamed overhead. Salvador Allende, the democratically elected president, was given an ultimatum: surrender or die. He refused. He went on the radio one last time, giving a final defiant speech to the people of Chile.
Como me acaba de decir a los trabajadores, yo no voy a renunciar. Colocado en un tránsito histórico, pagaré con mi vida la lealtad del pueblo. Y les digo que tengo la certeza que la semilla que entregáramos a la conciencia digna de miles y miles de chilenos no podrá ser cegada definitivamente. Tienen la fuerza, podrán avasallarlo, pero no se detienen los procesos sociales ni con el crimen ni con la fuerza. El comandante Araya, víctimas del mismo sector social que hoy estará en sus casas esperando con mano ajena reconquistar el poder para seguir defendiendo sus granjerías y sus privilegios. Me dirijo sobre todo a la modesta mujer de nuestra tierra, a la campesina que creyó en nosotros, a la obrera que trabajó más, a la madre que supo nuestra preocupación por los niños. Me dirijo a los profesionales de la patria, a los profesionales patriotas, a los que hace días estuvieron trabajando contra la sedición auspiciada por los colegios profesionales, colegios de clase para defender también las ventajas que una sociedad capitalista le da a los pocos. Me dirijo a la juventud, a aquellos que cantaron, entregaron su alegría y que por lo menos será una lección moral que castigará la felonía, la cobardía y la traición.
Vowing that he would not be forced out. Then, the jets attacked, bombing the presidential palace. As troops stormed the burning building, Salvador Allende, using an AK-47 given to him as a gift by Fidel Castro, took his own life rather than surrender. The CIA's role in the final coup was to create the climate, advise the plotters, and provide intelligence. They didn't give the final order, but they had spent 3 years setting the stage and ensuring the actors were in place. The result was the end of Chilean democracy and the beginning of a brutal 17-year dictatorship under General Pinochet. a regime that would go on to murder or disappear over 3,000 people and torture tens of thousands more. Chile was the dark evolution of the CIA's playbook. It showed that if a quick coup wasn't possible, the agency was willing to wage a long, brutal war of attrition against a democratic society to get its way. It was a strategy of death by 1,000 cuts, and it left a scar on a nation that has never fully healed. What do you think of this long-term strategy of destabilization? Is it a more effective or more dangerous form of intervention? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to continue following the CIA's secret history, make sure you subscribe to Strategy Codex and hit the notification bell. In our next video, we'll jump forward to the 1980s and uncover the Iran-Contra affair, a scandal of guns, drugs, and secret deals that almost brought down a presidency. You won't want to miss it. Subscribe and keep seeking the truth hidden in the archives.